Hello, everybody. It's 12:30, so I think I'm going to start. My name's Jim Pollard from the Men's Health Forum. I'm hoping that right now on your screens you can see a how to avoid COVID-19 Toolbox Talk. I'm looking for a big thumbs up from my co-host Martin that is what everyone can see. So what we wanted to do this lunchtime, welcome to Men's Health Week, by the way. Hope you're all doing exciting things. We've got a number of events lined up during the course of the week, and what we wanted to do at this one was talk a little bit about our Toolbox Talks, and specifically about the one that we've got on COVID-19. We developed Toolbox Talks initially with building industry, but with many different companies now use them. And the basic idea was to put the health back into health and safety. So a lot of businesses will have 10-minute talks at the start of a shift or whatever about safety issues. And we thought it was important that we also talked about health issues. So that's the purpose of the Toolbox Talks. And we've got 12, 13 of them now. And the most recent one is this one about COVID-19. So basically the idea of the Toolbox Talk is it's a 10, 15-minute interactive session to try and get some key health points over so you can use them in any idea is they can be used in any workplace or indeed out of workplaces. And I've done them with sheds, men's sheds, and with other groups as well. So the idea is it's all about getting people to talk, particularly getting guys to talk about the health issue in question. So they've all kind of got a little quiz, which we'll do in a minute. They've got some visual stimuli to talk about. They've got talking points. They've got cartoons, often photographs, all sorts of stuff, which are just resources that anyone can use to have a conversation about the issue. Not really here to flog the Toolbox Talks as such, but you can find them all on the Men's Health shop if you're interested. The COVID-19 one's free, and so at the moment is the stress one, which I'm going to talk about again later. So if you look on the screen in front of us here, how to avoid COVID-19, we've got slightly misnumbered, I noticed. We've got 7 questions. We've actually got 2 number 6s, but hopefully that's not going to spoil your enjoyment of the polling. I'm going to try and share the poll with you now, and that will give you the chance to answer these very simple questions. So hopefully on the screen in front of you, there should be the questions that are also on the shared screen. How do you catch a coronavirus? What is COVID-19? What are the main symptoms of COVID-19? How long can a virus live outside the body? What protects best against COVID-19? What is social distancing? And where is the best info on COVID-19? So you can all complete the poll, hopefully. Perhaps, Martin, if the poll has not appeared on the screen, you can let me know. Fantastic. I can see that people are starting to complete the poll. As I said, it is incredibly simple, really, for you incredibly well-informed people. So we've got 31 people in the room at the moment. 8 of you have completed the questions. 9 of you, 10 of you. "22 out of 31. So the poll's been running for 2 minutes now. I imagine that most of you have got some answers there. It says 90% of people have voted, 28 out of 32 at the moment. I'll just let the people who are still coming into the room see the questions and perhaps answer them if they're able. Okay, we're just coming around to 3 minutes and I'm going to stop the poll after it's been up for 3 minutes. Okay, so that's the end of the poll. 30 people voted. Thank you very much for everybody who took part. Now, the whole point of the quiz is not to really to get it right or wrong. It's again, everything's about getting people talking about the topic. So you'll be pleased to know that everybody, all 30 of you voted, got the first one. How do you catch a coronavirus right? It is indeed through contact with someone who already has it. All these other things, drinking too much Mexican beer, using a typewriter, driving an old car, they're all other things that are called corona. And some of you probably remember when the coronavirus first started, sales of Corona beer were actually affected. So it's good that we've moved on a bit from that. But obviously the serious point here is that touching a keyboard, as on a typewriter or indeed on a phone or anything else, touching a steering wheel or touching a bottle, all of these are ways that the virus can be passed on. So number 2, what is COVID-19? I hope everybody got that. The coronavirus that began in China in late 2019, and yes, everybody did get that. Obviously, if you didn't get it, you must have been out of the country, and therefore you should be self-isolating. What are the main symptoms of COVID-19? So the most popular ones: high temperature, dry cough, 37% for both of those, 17% for loss of sense or taste of smell, 10% for breathlessness. Now, I set that question up rather badly. I should have allowed you to choose more than one option there, but between you, you've got all of them. The other 2, runny nose and headache, could be there, but they're not the kind of key symptoms. And the first 3 symptoms, high temperature, dry cough, and loss of sense of taste and smell, they're the 3 that the government are urging people to look out for in order to self-isolate and or get a test. So this is a question that we get asked a lot: how long can the virus live outside the body? And most people have gone for 2 to 3 days, which is the best guess at the moment. Some research has shown the virus surviving for longer periods than that on certain surfaces, but it's not clear whether that's when the surface has been has had multiple contamination. So it is worth being aware just how long the virus can exist, and that is why some people, when they get letters or whatever, just leave them unopened for a few days. I don't know, some people have suggested that it could live a month. 2 people said that, and you may have information which proves that that's correct. I don't think it's completely impossible in some cases. I believe copper is the surface on which it does least well. So people are looking at copper masks, I know. What protects best against COVID-19? Glad to see no one's chosen a condom. One of the things that we try and do, maybe not very successfully in this particular Toolbox Talk, is to have a bit of humour, because there is quite a lot of research evidence that shows that men are more likely to take part or participate in health information if there's a little bit of humour involved. So we've got 40% for staying at home as much as possible, 20% for social distancing, 37% for washing hands regularly. All of these are good answers. If you do all of these 4, you're going to do pretty well in terms of protecting yourself against COVID-19. What is social distancing? Yes, as 100% of you said, it is indeed wearing keeping 2 meters apart rather than not wearing a mask. Wearing a mask is an alternative to, not an alternative to social distancing. It's for when you can't do it. And the best source of information on COVID-19, yes, indeed, is the UK nhs.uk/coronavirus site. So everyone maybe can see the answers now on the screen. Thanks very much. So that's the kind of first thing that we would do when you're doing a toolbox talk. If we look back at the main screen now with the toolbox talk itself, these are all provided as PDFs, so you can just print them out and distribute as many of them as you want around the workplace or around the group of men that you're working with. Excuse me. And it seems like the most useful kind of talking point for this particular topic is to look at the risks of individual groups and talk about which groups are at higher or lower risk in very sort of broad terms. Obviously, as time goes on, we're getting more and more research information about which of these groups are at particular risk. But you know, we're in a position to discuss kind of ballpark risk already. So older people, are they at higher or lower risk? I think everybody knows that they're at higher risk. Children are at lower risk, but the $6 million question and the thing that's causing so much problems in public policy at the moment is no one knows quite how infectious they are, and whether when asymptomatic, or even whether they are asymptomatic at all. And the other thing that's a cause of concern is the immune system response that some very, very, very small number of children seem to have, but generally children at lower risk. Smokers are, as they are for pretty much everything, at higher risk, although there's some research that showed that nicotine may be protective. I would tend to discount that research. I was talking to some colleagues at ASH the other day, and they certainly are not sort of suggesting that people will start smoking in order to protect themselves with nicotine. And certainly anybody who is a smoker, once they catch the virus, will be at considerably higher risk because of the damage done to the lungs by smoking, which is going to be exacerbated by the damage from COVID-19. So men, obviously that's the group of particular interest of the Men's Health Forum, are at higher risk. The age standardised data shows that men are generally at twice as likely to die as their female counterparts, so other women of the same age. Black and Asian people, as you'll know, are at higher risk, and there's been a lot of discussion about that. It was good to see the publication of the data the other week, and what we need to see now is publication of what the action that's going to be taken around this and all of the health inequalities around COVID-19. Overweight people are at higher risk. People with all these underlying conditions, heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, weakened immune systems, they're all at higher risk. And social media users, probably best to turn your social media off. So the Toolbox talk comes in two sides of A4. So the answers to the quiz are all on the other side. There's the discussion points that I've made there around higher and lower risk. I mean, this format that we've got here of a webinar is in some ways totally the opposite of the way that we should be doing the Toolbox talks. The idea is that it should be as interactive as possible, but we couldn't really think of a better way of doing it in the current circumstances. So, as I say, the answer to the quiz are there, higher and lower risk issues are there, and then we try and put talking points in all of the Toolbox talks, so there's something for groups to talk about. So the government says we should all work at home if we can. an employer must take all reasonable steps to allow home working. So we'd encourage people to discuss the workplace policy on what to do if you're ill. Can your business or workplace reopen? Some are legally not allowed. That group is obviously getting smaller and smaller as we move out of lockdown. The other thing I should say about Toolbox Talks is we do update them regularly. This one's been updated, I think, about 6 times already. And if you sign up for it in the shop, you'll be notified that there's an update, so you can always get the latest version. And I'm guessing that we'll do another version after the 4th of July, and I'm guessing that there's probably going to be another stage of opening up of lockdown. So if you can't work at home, discuss your workplace policy on working safely. The government says carry out a COVID-19 risk assessment. So that's what are the main risks and how can you avoid them? To develop clear cleaning, hand washing and hygiene practices, maintain 2 metre social distance where possible, and where 2 metres is not possible, manage the risk. So the government also identifies some options for managing risk when 2 metres is not possible. Stopping or limiting a particular activity, using screens or barriers, using fewer people, working differently, e.g. back to back, staggered working times. So the question is, are these possible in your workplace? And obviously a big question is, how can all workers and unions be involved in this discussion? So it's quite simple, I think, to talk about these issues. We don't need to make a big deal out of it, and hopefully that kind of brings together all of the issues that we need to talk about. On the 2 metre thing, which people do ask about a lot, if you keep a 1 metre distance all the time, basically the research shows that you'll reduce your risk of catching COVID-19 from coming in contact with someone else who's got it from about 13% to about 3%. That's at 1 metre, and the benefits double with every additional metre. So at 2 metres, you've got about a 1.5% chance of catching it if you come in contact with someone who's got it. And that goes down still further, 3 metres, 4 metres. So obviously if you stay far away enough, you'll get it down, the risk down to very close to 0. And all of the Toolbox Talks end with a series of top tips. So we've got some here. Wash your hands as much as possible, stay at home as much as possible, social distance as much as possible, and so on. So that's the COVID-19 Toolbox Talk. I'm just wondering if anyone has got any comments, whether they want to share them via chat, and perhaps I can bring people in to speak more if that feels possible. So if anyone's got any thoughts they want to share on chat, that would be great. I'm also going to talk about the Beat Stress Toolbox Talk, which is also available free in the shop at the moment. But just to give myself a break for 2 seconds. If anyone's got anything they want to share on chat, that would be great. So Jeannie Martin's asking about the WhatsApp group. Martin Todd, who's the CEO of the Men's Health Forum, is doing the sort of the back end technical stuff on this webinar. There's a WhatsApp link, and Martin's also going to email round the information about how to join the WhatsApp group. The idea is that we want to set up a Men and Work WhatsApp group so that we can talk about all of the Toolbox Talks and all of the other work that we're doing in the workplace, and other work perhaps that we should be doing in the workplace. Has anyone encountered any of the issues that we've raised in the Toolbox Talk in their workplace and come up with any interesting solutions for them? Okay, I'm going to switch to the Beat Stress Toolbox Talk at this point. So you can see that one on the screen now. Again, there's a quiz, there's a cartoon, there's some talking points, and it's going to be particularly difficult to do the talking points for this one as a webinar. And we've also got a kind of photograph with some text on it. So there's all of these things are there to just to stimulate discussion. So I'm going to launch the poll again, so you'll get the 4 questions that are on the Beat Stress Toolbox Talk. Hopefully that's going to work. Hopefully you're now seeing the Beat Stress and Anger questions, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to answer all those. "31 of 35 of you have voted. I'm hoping that we can get up to 100%. Come on, 3 of you who haven't yet voted. Martin's telling me that because one person's joined by phone, they can't vote. So there's 2 people who have logged on who haven't voted. Anyway, never mind. I'm going to end the poll at this point. And I'm going to share the results straight away, which is probably what I should have done last time. So how many people will get a mental health problem this year? And the answer, as most of you, is a bit like ask the audience, isn't it, on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? So 81% of people have gone for 1 in 4, which is the correct answer. I suspect it's not unreasonable to assume that given the current difficulties that we're having around COVID, the actual virus itself, the impact it's having on people's health, but also the impact it's having on society and therefore on people's mental health, it's not unreasonable to assume that it could well be more than 1 in 4 in this particular year. So it's really, really important that we do talk about our mental well-being. How many suicides are male? And once again, the answer is D, 75%. So 53% of you said that. So quite a few quite a significant minority of people underestimating the level of male suicide. Now, obviously, each individual suicide is an individual suicide. It's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to generalise from about the causes. But we can say that men are more likely to commit suicide, and we need to be aware of that, because that's the end of a long journey of dealing with mental health difficulties, which takes you to that place. It's not, very rarely is suicide something that has not been thought about before it's done. So it's very important that we try and intervene before it gets to that point. And the third question rather enables us to see what the scale of the problem is around male mental health. So how many people treated for mental health problems are men compared to women? And 66% of you rightly said that it's only 1 in 4. So there's a big mismatch. If you look at people being treated for low-level mental health problems like depression, anxiety, it's mostly women. If you look at people who are doing, taking the final, doing the worst thing that you can do really in terms of how to deal with your mental health, they're mostly men. So we need to find a way to improve or increase the number of men who are receiving some sort of intervention before it gets to that end stage. Which of these are signs of stress? And again, I should have set this up a little bit better really, but most of you have correctly identified that all of them are signs of stress. As with so many aspects of men's health, pointing out that erection problems are possibly a sign does tend to get men a little bit more interested in the topic. So if we come back to I'll stop sharing the poll results. So the whole point of the poll results, as I said before, is not really to about who gets it right or who gets it wrong, but to try and make a point. And the point that we're trying to make here is that not enough men are getting help with their mental health problems before they get very, very serious. And that's something that in the workplace we can all try and do something about, not least because having mentally unwell men in your workplace is not particularly good for business in every respect. So we have some cartoons which can be a good way of getting conversation going. I'm getting worried about my mood swings. Every time I get in a mood, I take a swing at somebody. And we've also got the Superman photograph. So how can I be anxious? I'm Superman. And Captain America saying Wonder Woman won't respect me if I say I'm worried. This other superhero, I'm not sure who they are, saying kill. And Wonder Woman saying, why can't they just say how they feel? So there's a kind of whole area of discussion there you can have around men needing to be seen to be Supermen, and that's the point of that particular photograph. So then we've got all these talking points. Stress is good for you. You can't spend any time talking about stress with men without someone telling you that stress is good for you. And whilst a certain amount of stress might be good for you, too much of it absolutely isn't. Ignore stress and it will go away. Probably not a good idea because it's probably not going to happen. Stress only affects weak people. Again, it's a kind of popular misconception about it. Stress actually affects everybody. People who think they don't get stressed or don't feel stressed are simply people who are not in touch with how they're feeling. So even the busiest, most effective, most successful people will get stressed, and they will be more effective and more successful if they identify it. I can't be an addict. I only drink at weekends, so it's good to talk about some of the behaviours that can manifest themselves when you're showing signs of stress, and obviously they were listed in question 4. So in this Toolbox Talk, we've then got the key fact that we're trying to get over in the 10-15 minute session you're going to spend doing it. Too much stress can damage your immune system and heart, increase your chances of serious health problems, reduce your life expectancy, and damage your damage your sex life, even if you don't notice you're stressed. Top tips: we're all different. Learn what pushes your stress and anger buttons. Walk away rather than lose your temper. Be honest with yourself. It will enable you to be honest with others. Talk about what's on your mind. Don't bottle it up. And then all of the other Toolbox talks have then got what's called the full SP, which is basically all the information about the topic off our website, so that people can take that away with them as well if they want to. I'm getting very sore throat here. So what I think I'm going to do is invite people to come off mute and share their thoughts for the last 10-15 minutes of the webinar. I'll put the video back on, and perhaps we can all have a chat about some of the issues that I've raised around COVID, around stress and men's stress, and also around the Toolbox talks. Thank you very much to Mike Haynes-Coote for pointing out that was Iron Man, the superhero that I couldn't identify. Thank you very much.
It's actually War Machine, I believe.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Also branded as Iron Patriot, very briefly.
Right.
And
well, that's good to know.
Yeah. And also, I'm absolutely shocked and appalled that you're blending Marvel and DC.
I'm very sorry about that, Tess.
I didn't slide this once, but don't do it again.
Okay.
Just don't be stressed about it, Ted. That's the important thing.
There'll be a lot of geeks in the world who'd be very stressed by that mixing.
You've got to stay relaxed. Walk away from the screen. Don't let the image upset you.
You're taking it away now. That's the main thing.
Anybody else like to share any thoughts on what we've discussed? I'm kind of realising, having done it, that I probably should have stopped and done this after I'd done the COVID-19 Toolbox talk before I rushed on to the beat stress one. But we're all learning.
Mike Haynes-Coote had an interesting question, which is there a need to be concerned about the difference between face coverings versus face mask, brackets PPE? Are others providing workplace face coverings? Which I suppose is a question to everybody in the group.
Mm.
I know people want to respond to that in chat or unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute yourself now and make a comment. Go on. Who's going to put their head above the radar? Oh, Tess is going for it.
I like the sound of my own voice. It's all good. I think it's a really, really key question, because there's a lot of stuff in the media around face masks and things like that, which will get people worried. And the information is constantly changing. I think it's important to understand the difference between face masks and face coverings. I think, if you're dealing with surgical situations, then having a proper PPE face mask is absolutely vital, obviously. My understanding of face coverings is you're being very selfless. You're protecting other people from you. So as long as you don't think that you're invincible, you're Iron Man or War Machine by having the face covering on, you're protecting other people. You think about blowing a candle. If you've got a face covering on and you try and blow a candle, you're not going to blow it out. It's the same. You're not going to be transmitting as many of your germs as you would be if you didn't have the face covering on.
Yeah. So, Tez, at Hampshire County Council, what are you saying to staff about, in terms of face masks and stuff? Is it different depending on what work people are doing, or?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of what the edict from Hampshire County Council, I'm not exactly sure. Martin might know more than me. I know that we're still working from home if we can. There's a move back to getting people into work. So basically, if they need to, we're going to probably get about 25% of E2 court staff, for example, back to the office with proper social distancing measures in place. But the rest of the people, if they can work from home, they will work from home. But I'm not exactly sure. I think was it Mike's point about our workplaces providing face coverings. I don't believe that's the case.
No. Kate Mooney has said, I think it depends on the work situation. Kate, I don't know if you're there and you're able to come off mute and say a bit more about that.
Yeah.
Hiya. Workplace. Hi.
Yeah, I just think it depends. And I certainly think it depends on the type of work being done. Like, for example, I'm working in general practice. So certainly my work is providing PPE, and I think that it's essential if you're being asked to see people face to face.
Sure.
Then not everybody is working in the same situation as I am, where a makeshift face covering will be sufficient in other situations. But I think nobody should be asked to perform their job in a situation where they don't feel safe. And obviously then it's up to them to bring that case to their employer to put whatever in place that they feel fit.
Jim, if I could just, Jim, sorry, I asked the question. If I could just sort of clarify. So I work at a university, and what we've actually found is that there's quite a lot of concern from the student body, and actually from our international students, that the university, or almost UK, has not been taking the virus serious enough by wearing face masks. We have quite a lot of Southeast Asian students. And now, obviously, there's been a move to wear face coverings on public transport. But as I say, the university line is not to be providing face coverings, not to be issuing them to staff, and only wearing masks where it's an actual requirement of the task. But as I say, there has been this feedback from the student body, just as a cultural issue as much as anything else, about the university sort of being seen to be supportive. And we have seen some institutions take this action, and that in itself is generating momentum. So if one university does it, does that mean another university does it? So it's quite a fluid situation at the moment as to just what line you take, and then how firmly you hold to that line.
Mary Simpson has made a very interesting point. She's working from home personally, but I sense a reluctance to wear face coverings in men especially. Obviously, famously, Donald Trump's refused to wear them, but I wouldn't want him to be seen as being typical of all men. I don't know what people think about that. I mean, there's
can I make a comment?
Pros and cons to the thing, doesn't there? That, you know, wearing a face mask may give you and others a false sense of security. On the other hand, obviously, as Tez says, it can be helpful for not passing it on.
I think it's not just face masks. I think my husband works in the golf industry, and his observations are that the male golfers tend to be much more casual about social distancing than the female golfers, and I think with face masks as well, I think there's something about almost like you're braver if you don't wear a mask, or I don't know what's going on exactly, and I'm not a man, but I feel like the other thing might be that more men have been out there, kind of, because I've been locked down, I'm sort of still at the early stages in a way in my head.
Yeah.
So every time I go out, I'm very conscious of the danger because I'm still working from home, and I'm very lucky to be able to do that. But I think that you know, delivery men and people, and the chap who works in the post office, you know, and people are out there every day, kind of have. It's a very invisible danger, and I think there's a little bit of complacency there, and maybe this is something that a lot of men are being resistant to. I don't know if it's also an image thing and not wanting to wear them, but I know that the men folk that I've given them to, my elderly relatives, are preferring to wear those ones that you pull up rather than a mask. But it is a concern, I think. I think men are particularly resistant to it, and I don't know whether that's just me as a woman thinking that, but my husband agrees, and other men seem to be resisting. So I don't know how the other men here feel about that.
Who is wearing a mask at their workplace, if anybody? Do any guys sort of, does it resonate what Mary's saying? Are any of you kind of not wanting to wear a mask because you think it makes you look a bit of a prat?
I think there's. I'd wear a mask if needed. I have bought a cloth covering on the internet with like a gruesome smiley face on it, but that probably just scares the kids.
Are you not wearing that at the moment, Ted?
Outrageous. I think it's really important as well. I think there's this false sense of security you might get from where you look fantastic, Mary. False sense of security you get from wearing a mask, and I think it's really important, and it would be interesting if maybe Men's Health Forum could do some promotion on it, because their promotion is usually absolutely fantastic, around wearing masks, maybe promoting it, but also making people aware of the limitations of the mask. It isn't going to protect, the cloth covering won't protect against COVID-19.
Yeah.
In terms of getting it. And also the PPE that they're wearing in hospital, there's a whole procedure that they wear to get it on and to get it off. It's not, you see the COVIDiots, around with the mask on, pulling it down to talk to each other and then pulling it back up. It's like, what are you doing? So there's a whole, if we're going to go down the masks route, you need to do a decent amount of promotion.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we need to do is we need to know what actually you're wearing the mask for and why, because I also see the opposite of what Mary's talking about. You also see men wearing masks who think that basically gives them carte blanche to do whatever they want. I saw a guy.
Looking fantastic, Martin.
Very nice mask, Martin. But I saw a guy who'd obviously bought the most expensive mask that you could get with all the sort of bits and bobs on it, and all very, very high tech. Looked like he was going in, just come out of Chernobyl or somewhere like that. And he was just walking around the supermarket like he owned the place. So that there's it cuts both ways, unfortunately. It's more about men's sense of their own immortality or own vulnerability. I don't know.
Possibly.
Can I just say, hi, I'm Leanne Bird from Carmarthenshire County Council. Just on Jenny's point there, I think it was really important that the problem with face coverings is that you are wearing them to protect other people. So there's going to be heightened anxiety from those who want to wear them because they're anxious, but actually they need everyone else to wear them so that they feel less anxious. So it may be an idea for managers to sort of encourage that conversation about whether people would feel more comfortable if everyone was wearing them, maybe actually start the discussions with their teams as to sort of what would make people feel comfortable, and kind of set up an agreement in, because obviously it isn't standard practice, but maybe that would be a good idea.
Are you working from home, Leanne, or are you in the office? Sorry, I didn't see your hand up either. Sorry, apologies.
No, I'm working from home, yeah. We pretty much all staff that can work from home are still working from home. I actually work in Wales, so obviously we're under slightly stricter lockdown rules, but there are certain services that are going back into work in our council, but they have to go through a system of a silver and gold command, and they have to show what they've put into place and why it is essential that they're returning back to work. So there's quite a strict procedure that our chief exec and different layers have put in place, that they have to sort of justify why the staff have to go back to work and that they are going to keep staff safe.
Mm-hmm. I noticed, I think it's Joy, I'm not quite sure, from Wirral Council's talking about a building that's been opened next week for staff. Sorry, I have to leave now, so I think maybe she's gone. But that would have been quite interesting. Sounds like got a special building that they were going to open for staff, which presumably would have been more COVID friendly than the current offices. Anything else on any of the aspects, the things that we talked about, maybe not face mask related? What's people's views about the idea of the Toolbox Talks in general? Are they the sorts of things that you might want to use in your workplace, or do we need to think about offering other things as well?
Jim, another question, not about masks, but about complacency that was mentioned earlier. I think You know, when this first sort of started kicking off, there was it was all about the washing your hands, wasn't it? It was like they had happy birthday to you, 20 seconds washing your hands, all about the washing your hands. It hasn't been that much about washing your hands. Do we feel that people have forgotten that? Because that will beat face masks in terms of, you know,
Yeah. The benefit of washing your hands is bigger than the benefit of face masks. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying it is more, you know, social distancing, you know, staying home and washing your hands will beat face masks hands down.
Yeah.
And have we forgotten that? Do we need a big push for more of that rather than, oh, they've lifted lockdown, there's not a problem anymore?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
We're lifting lockdown, but don't forget to wash your hands. So this should be the message, if you see what I mean. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are on that.
Domenico, you've got your hand up.
Hi, yeah, just a comment about, you were asking about the toolbox talks, what we think, and yeah, I think are really useful, but sometime during the meetings, I see not everyone is really taking the opportunity or really taking seriously sometime, and just like you know, it's something that we should do, and it's just not really useful sometime. And I think it is, but yeah, it would be good, or somehow, of course, that's every individual can manage differently, but to make something to get the most from the toolbox talk. Yeah.
Have you used them in your workplace?
Yeah, we tend to use in longer meetings, but not in the shortest one, of course. And that's quite useful. Yeah, it's really useful.
Thanks very much. I guess a lot of this is about how people want things to be. We're talking a lot about masks because everybody wants things to go back to normal. So everyone's hoping that, you know, wearing a mask is gonna make that, enable that to happen. But I think the point that other people are making, that all these other things, the social distancing, the washing their hands, those are still the things that the most important, is the key point to get over, really. Anybody else got anything they'd like to share? We are slightly over time. We said we'd finish at 1:15. Thanks very much.